continuation of a video I just made. I kind of cut it off abruptly, but I was talking about the origins of organized crime in southern Italy and then in the United States. And I mentioned the three regional variations of what became the American Mafia. At the end of the 1800s, a lot of Italians settled in Clarksburg, not very many Sicilians, so these Italians brought some of their traditions with them, which unfortunately included what we would call black hand organizations, which would extort, perhaps run gambling, prostitution, narcotics. Then later, when alcohol prohibition came in, they would smuggle alcohol and things like that. So in Clarksburg, you had a black hand organization along with Fairmont. It was kind of the same organization called Famiglia Vagabonda, Wandering Family. There were factions within the group, just as any gang has rivalries, but I suspect that a lot of the fighting was along lines of people from the Naples region and peoples further south in the toe of the foot of Italy. One such person is right over here in a gravestone for Francesco Napolitano. It's one of the first graves in Holy Cross Cemetery. He was murdered in 1922. He was a barber, but he was allegedly a leader of the Camorra, which would be the Campania, however you say that, region of southern Italy, of the crime organization in Kelly Hill. He was murdered by rivals. 4 people were executed for that murder. 2 brothers, which were Corby brothers, escaped. They eventually ended up in Baltimore, Maryland, joined the mafia there, which at the time was Sicilian. But when that mob boss died, Frank Corby of Clarksburg, West Virginia, became head of the Baltimore Mafia. He reported up the chain that Joseph N. Gallo of New York, no relation to the Gallo families in Clarksburg, and the Gambino organization until the time of John Gotti. The Corby brother also had his friend, a good friend named Antonio Repepi, who was a sub-boss within the Pittsburgh Mafia. They were close friends. Repepi, protege, eventually became the sub-boss of Pittsburgh, and reporting to him were people in the West Virginia organized crime who were not Italian but were nevertheless part of the mob, such as Paul Hankish and various associates across northern West Virginia. It's just remarkable to me that this is right here. It's a nondescript tomb. Within the last 2 to 3 years, his children have all died. They went by their mother's maiden name, which I won't mention, but it's a very, very prominent name in this area. This is part of our history, which unfortunately is known to some people. It's known to some people, but it's not always talked about. And I think just because of the discomfort it leaves with people. I think a lot of that's unfortunate, even as a formerly religious person. This is all part of our culture and our history, and it should not really be forgotten. And one of the tragedies is that a lot of the activities they were engaged in, such as gambling, sales of lotteries, are things the state of West Virginia does now. We punished people and subjected people to all this activity, which wasn't really necessary. But I'm going to have a part 3 for that. I'm going to head downtown. I'll holler at you later.